Press neutralize objective Charlie.
What's up, YeshGamers? XRobertTheBrucex here with some Battlefield 4 gameplay for you, but the subject of the day is Battlefield 1, which is really more like Battlefield 5, but I get it. It's set in World War I, clever name, cool. Now, before we dive into that discussion, though, let me just say it is awesome that well over 2 years after it was released, Battlefield 4 is still a really fun game. I know it had a rocky start, but man, I still have a good time hopping in a game of Conquest and just diving into the chaos. But let's talk about Battlefield 1. Okay, so World War I setting for a first-person shooter. DICE went and did it. It's a bold move. And if you don't think it's bold, just consider this. The most first-person shooters maintain a lot of their replayability. Is that a word? I'm going to go with it. FPS games often maintain their replayability by having lots of customization. Bazillions of different sights and scopes to choose from, a whole plethora of modern rifles and sidearms to customize, etc. Now, on top of that, a lot of players generally like modern weapons. Now, we can discuss the ins and outs of why modern weapons are more sought after, but it doesn't really matter. It just is what it is. So Battlefield 1 is going to struggle to keep up with some of these things that make a lot of modern FPS games attractive. I'm not saying they won't be able to have customization, they're just going to have to be creative with it. You can't exactly throw a suppressor on your hand trench shovel that you're using to beat a guy down with. And now, in keeping with the spirit of World War I, well, the weapons are going to be old. So, if you only like ultra-modern assault rifles with target finder sights on them, well, it may be hard to convince you to get into Battlefield 1. Now, personally, though, I'm kind of excited about it. Now, I'll admit, when it was officially confirmed that it was a World War I game, I was a little worried. Star Wars Battlefront has been a blast, but it's a great example of a game that has suffered from a lack of customization. The blasters are what they are. The star cards are what they are. There's not a massive amount of ways you can make your own setup feel unique and cool, and I believe that has really hurt the longevity of Star Wars Battlefront. When players don't feel like they can really tweak their class and make minor adjustments as they go, well, they get bored quicker. So my biggest fear for Battlefield 1 was that they'd fall into the same trap. Now, the more I've watched the trailer and analyzed things, the more I'm starting to feel like it has some pretty awesome potential. World War I was a fascinating time when it comes to weapon development, and I think DICE has a chance to really make a special game here. The visuals looked awesome. I love that they're ramping up the destruction level. Planes getting shot, losing pieces that affect their handling in the game, plus the debris is falling down onto the battlefield, towers that a plane crashes into are falling over, and stuff's going everywhere. It looks like it'll really take that chaotic feeling of being in a war even higher than it is in existing Battlefield games. Now, I'm also excited to get to experience a World War I shooter made today. Now, like I said before, it was a fascinating piece of history, and the modern or futuristic shooters that all the current FPS games are being modeled after just kind of starting to feel stale. It's refreshing to see DICE being bold, going after something really different. Now, again, my main hope is that they'll keep it fresh by introducing creative ways to customize classes. If players feel like there's a ton to unlock, there's always something new, attachment or something they can go after, the game's going to really have a great chance of long shelf life. Now, if it's like Battlefront, and a couple months in, you're like, I've already kind of experienced everything, there's nothing else to work towards, it sadly might fade away quicker than I'd hope. Now, lastly, I'll say this. I'm kind of excited about the era of weapons we will be using, because if it's done well, I think it's going to force players to think a little more strategically. And that's what I'm all about in FPS gaming. Now, having to think and work together with your buddies to accomplish an objective is an absolute blast. Now, if you have your friend who's a rock star in a helicopter and he just sweeps through and kills 15 enemies and then you just waltz into the capture point, it's not really fun. Now, I'm hoping that the very nature of the weaponry being used is going to force players to rely on teamwork and solid tactics, instead of just one or two amazing players who kind of run the whole battlefield. Hey, I can dream, right? So, what are your thoughts? Are you getting hyped for Battlefield 1 and planning to pre-order? Or does World War I not really do it for you, and you're setting your sights on something else? Also, let me know if you've discovered something really cool about Battlefield 1 from analyzing the trailer. Hit me up in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you on the battlefield.